The desperate call. The stars hung like distant lanterns in the velvet darkness above Tellerus Station, a small outpost perched on the edge of the Andromeda Arm. Inside the command center, Captain Lyra Venn watched her crew work in tense silence, their blue skin glistening with sweat under the emergency lights. The station's long-range scanners had detected an anomaly 3 cycles ago, a distortion in space that shouldn't exist. Now that distortion had materialized into their worst nightmare. Confirm visual on the approaching fleet, Lyra ordered, her four-fingered hand gripping the command rail. Lieutenant Zav looked up from his console, mandibles clicking in distress. Confirmed, Captain. 47 vessels. Signature matches Vorax warships. Distance, 8 million kilometers and closing. The command center fell silent. The Vorax, a species known across 3 sectors for their ruthless efficiency and their appetite for conquest. They didn't negotiate, didn't take prisoners, didn't leave survivors. They simply appeared, consumed, and moved on. Have they responded to our hails? Lyra asked, already knowing the answer. Negative, Captain. All frequencies remain silent. Lyra closed her inner eyelids momentarily. Tellerus Station housed 15,000 colonists, scientists, and personnel, a fragile bubble of life on this distant moon. Their defenses might hold against pirates or raiders, but against a Vorax armada, they were nothing more than paper walls against a hurricane. Open a channel to Galactic Union headquarters. Priority Alpha. Minutes passed like hours as they waited. When the holographic display finally flickered to life, the stern face of Union Admiral Krell appeared, his expression carefully neutral. Captain Venn, we've received your distress signal. Admiral, we have confirmation of a Vorax fleet approaching Tellerus. We request immediate assistance under Article 7 of the Mutual Defense Treaty. The Admiral's expression shifted minutely. I understand your situation, Captain, but I must inform you that our nearest battle group is 3 weeks from your position. Given the political complexities of the Outer Rim territories. Political complexities. Lyra's voice rose. Admiral, we have 15,000 civilians who will be dead long before your battle group arrives, if that's your answer. I'm aware of the stakes, Captain, the Admiral replied, his tone hardening. But the Union Council has been clear. We cannot risk open conflict with the Vorax over a single outpost. Unauthorized to offer evacuation assistance for essential personnel via quantum courier, but evacuation of essential personnel. Lyra's secondary hearts began pounding in fury. That would accommodate perhaps 50 people from a population of 15,000. The Admiral's expression didn't change. Those are the parameters I'm authorized to offer, Captain. I suggest you begin selection procedures immediately. Union Command. Out. The hologram vanished, leaving Lyra staring at empty space. Around her, the command crew stood in shocked silence. They're abandoning us, Lieutenant Zav whispered. Lyra's mind raced. The Union had abandoned them. The Sigarian Empire wouldn't challenge the Vorax. The Mirkad Consortium was too distant. There was nowhere to turn, no one who would stand against the Vorax armada bearing down on their position. No one except Lieutenant Zav. I need a secure channel, she said suddenly. Frequency 612.4. Zad's head frills flared in surprise. Captain, that frequency hasn't been used in. Just do it, Lieutenant. As Zav worked the controls, Security Chief Talon moved closer to Lyra. Captain, that's the Earth emergency frequency. The humans haven't responded to any communication in 70 years. I know. They withdrew from galactic affairs. They dismantled their fleet. They've been isolationists since the Proxima betrayal. That's what everyone believes, Lyra said quietly. But my grandmother served alongside humans during the Hive Wars. She told me things that were never recorded in official histories. Before Talon could respond, Zav called out, "Channel open, Captain." Lyra took a deep breath and activated her comm. "This is Captain Lyra Venn of Tellerus Station to any Earth forces. We are under imminent attack by a Vorax armada. The Galactic Union has abandoned us. 15,000 civilians will die without intervention. If you can hear this, if you remember what it means to stand against the darkness, we need you now." She repeated the message 3 times, then fell silent. The command center remained quiet, save for the persistent beeping of the approaching Vorax ships on the tactical display. "How long until they reach us?" Lyra asked after a moment. 16 hours at current velocity, Zav replied. "Begin civilian shelter protocols. Distribute emergency rations, and prepare defense teams." As her crew hurried to obey, Lyra gazed out the viewport at the stars. She knew she had just transmitted into empty space, grasping at a myth, a memory of a species that had once stood shoulder to shoulder with the galaxy before retreating behind their own borders. But myths were all they had left. Deep within the hollowed-out asteroid designated Luna Base Alpha, Commander John Chen sat bolt upright as the alert sounded. "Sir," Lieutenant Rivera called from the communication station, "we've received a distress call on the old emergency band." Chen was already moving, crossing the circular command deck in 4 long strides. "Source: Tellerus Station. Outer Andromeda Arm. Message indicates Vorax aggression and Union abandonment." Chen's face hardened. The Vorax, warmongers who had risen to power in the vacuum left by humanity's withdrawal. And the Union, politicians who had once been allies before proving themselves fair-weather friends. "How many civilians?" he asked. 15,000, sir." Chen turned to the tactical officer. "Status of Strike Group Theta. Fully operational, sir. All 20 ships at combat readiness." Chen was silent for a moment, weighing options that weren't really options at all. Earth had withdrawn from galactic politics 70 years ago after the Proxima betrayal, when humanity's colonies had been sacrificed by their so-called allies to appease a hive expansion. But they had never stopped watching, never stopped preparing. "Alert Admiral Yamamoto. I'm invoking Mercury Protocol." The command deck fell silent. Mercury Protocol, the authorization to break Earth's self-imposed isolation, to reveal what had been hidden for 7 decades. "Sir, are you certain?" His XO asked quietly. "Once we deploy." "I'm certain, Colonel." Chen's voice was iron. "The galaxy forgot why they feared us. It's time they remembered." Within minutes, Admiral Keiko Yamamoto's hologram appeared on the command deck. Her eyes narrowed as Chen explained the situation. "Tellerus," she murmured. "That's Tellarian territory. Blue-skinned, 4-fingered good engineers. They stood with us during the Hive Wars when others wavered." "Yes, Admiral." Yamamoto's expression grew distant, calculating. 70 years of isolation. 70 years of preparation. We knew this day would come, when someone would need us enough to call, and we would need to answer. "Your orders, Admiral." Yamamoto's gaze sharpened. "Deploy Strike Group Theta. Full combat configuration. Save who you can. Show the Vorax what happens when they hunt in waters they don't understand. And the Union? Let them watch," Yamamoto said coldly. "It's time they learned the difference between diplomacy and strength." Yamamoto out. As the hologram faded, Chen turned to his crew. "Sound general quarters. Deploy all ships. Weapons hot. Stealth systems engage." Throughout the massive asteroid base, warning klaxons began to wail. In hangars carved from ancient stone, massive warships that had remained hidden from galactic sensors for decades hummed to life. Humanity had withdrawn, yes, but they had never disarmed. While the galaxy believed Earth had dismantled its military and embraced pacifism, they had instead built in secret, creating weapons and ships that made their previous fleet look like children's toys. The ships of Strike Group Theta emerged from their concealed bays, 20 vessels of gleaming dark metal, their hulls unmarked by insignia, their weapons systems unlike anything seen in known space. They moved in perfect formation, silent and deadly, slipping into FTL drives that bent space in ways the Union scientists had only theorized about. Commander Chen stood on the bridge of the flagship Nemesis, watching as the stars blurred around them. Time to Tellerus Station. 4 hours, sir. Chen nodded grimly. Let's hope we're not too late. On Tellerus Station, Captain Lyra had abandoned hope. The Vorax fleet had accelerated, having their arrival time. In 8 short hours, they would reach the station. All civilians are in the shelter zones, Lieutenant Zav reported. Defense teams are deployed, but he trailed off. But it was futile. They all knew it. Their weapons would barely scratch the Vorax ship's armor. Any response from Earth? Lyra asked, though she knew the answer. No, Captain. All channels remain. Zav stopped suddenly, his eyes widening as he adjusted his headset. Captain, I'm detecting spatial distortions at coordinates 227 by 418. The Vorax. Lyra demanded, turning to the viewport. No, the signature is. I've never seen anything like this. It's not traditional FTL. It's as if space itself is. Before he could finish, reality seemed to fold in upon itself. Where empty space had been moments before, 20 ships materialized. Sleek, dark vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Unknown vessels, Zav whispered. No identification transponders. No known configuration. Lyra's heart raced. Open a channel. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the communications array crackled to life, and a human voice, a sound not heard in this sector for generations, filled the command center. Tellerus Station. This is Commander Jian Chen of Earth Strike Group Theta. We received your distress call. We are here to assist. Please transmit the location of civilian shelters and your defensive positions. The command center erupted in chaos. Cries of disbelief, of relief, of joy. Lyra herself felt tears streaming down her face. Earth ships, she whispered. They came. Captain, Zav called out, his voice urgent. The Vorax fleet has changed course. They're accelerating toward our position. Of course they were. The Vorax would have detected the new arrivals, unknown vessels appearing from nowhere. They would be rushing to investigate, to eliminate any potential threat before continuing their planned assault. Lyra opened the channel. Commander Chen, we are transmitting shelter locations now. Be advised, the Vorax have accelerated. They will reach us in less than 30 minutes. Understood, Captain. The human's voice was calm, almost cold. I suggest you move all personnel away from external viewports and secure for potential shockwaves. Theta Group is moving to intercept. As Lyra watched, the Earth vessels accelerated toward the approaching Vorax fleet, their engines leaving no visible exhaust, their movements precise and coordinated like predators stalking prey. They're going to engage directly. Lieutenant Talon asked in disbelief. 20 ships against 47 Vorax warships. Lyra remembered her grandmother's stories, tales of human ferocity, of battles where outmanned and outgunned Earth forces had somehow prevailed through a combination of tactical brilliance and raw, terrifying determination. They're not just going to engage, she said quietly. They're going to win. Wrath of the Forgotten. Commander Jian Chen stood motionless on the bridge of the Nemesis, studying the tactical display as Strike Group Theta approached the Vorax fleet. 70 years of isolation had changed humanity in ways the galaxy couldn't comprehend. 70 years of preparation, innovation, and singular focus, creating a military force designed for one purpose: to ensure that what happened at Proxima would never happen again. All ships, maintain formation, Chen ordered. Weapon systems active but masked. Let them come to us. The Vorax fleet approached with the arrogance of conquerors who had never known defeat. Their ships, massive, organ-like constructions of chitin and metal, arranged themselves in offensive formation, energy signatures flaring as weapon systems charged. They're hailing us, Commander, Lieutenant Rivera reported. Let's hear them. The view screen flickered, revealing a Vorax war captain, a creature with too many eyes and mandibles that clicked constantly as it spoke through a translator. Unknown vessels, you have entered restricted space. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your immediate destruction. Chen allowed himself a cold smile. This is Commander Chen of Earth Strike Group Theta. You are threatening a civilian outpost under our protection. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. The Vorax's mandibles clacked rapidly, what passed for laughter in their species. Earth, the cowards who fled from galactic affairs, your reputation precedes you, human. You abandoned your own colonies to save yourselves. What makes you think we fear you now? You're right that our reputation precedes us, Chen replied calmly. But you've been told the wrong story. He cut the transmission with a gesture. All ships, execute Thunderbolt protocol. Before the Vorax fleet could react, the Earth vessels seemed to shimmer, their stealth fields dropping to reveal weapon systems unlike anything seen in galactic warfare. Not the plasma cannons or mass drivers that were standard across known space, but something altogether more terrifying. Graviton lances, locked on target, reported the weapons officer. Fire. 20 beams of concentrated gravitational force lanced out from the Earth ships, each targeting a different Vorax vessel. They didn't explode against shields or burn through hulls. They simply altered the fundamental forces holding the enemy ships together. Metal and chitin compressed with impossible force, entire warships collapsing in on themselves until they were nothing but dense, twisted husks of matter. 20 Vorax ships destroyed in a single volley. The remaining Vorax vessels broke formation, their previous coordination dissolving into panic. Some attempted to return fire, launching salvos of plasma that dissipated harmlessly against the Earth ship's quantum phase shields. Others began desperate evasive maneuvers, attempting to retreat. They're trying to regroup, Lieutenant Pierce, the tactical officer, observed. No, Chen said quietly. They're trying to run. He opened a fleet-wide channel. This is Commander Chen. The Vorax threatens civilians under our protection. There will be no retreat. Execute Omega formation. Weapons free. The Earth fleet split into smaller attack groups, each pursuing clusters of fleeing Vorax ships. What followed wasn't combat in any conventional sense. It was execution. Graviton lances collapsed more vessels. Quantum phase torpedoes phased through shields to detonate inside engine cores. Nanite swarms disintegrated command bridges from within. Within 17 minutes, the Vorax fleet, once 47 ships strong, had been reduced to floating debris and distorted hulks of compressed matter. All targets neutralized. Commander, Lieutenant Pierce reported, her voice steady despite the devastation they had just wrought. No survivors detected. Chen nodded once. Recall all ships. Form defensive perimeter around Tellerus Station. As the Earth fleet regrouped, the communications officer called out, Sir, we're receiving transmissions from everywhere. The Tellerus communication network is lighting up. Word of the engagement has spread. Of course it had. After 70 years of silence, humanity had returned to galactic affairs in the most dramatic way possible, by annihilating a Vorax fleet that most military analysts would have considered unstoppable. Patch me through to Captain Ven, Chen ordered. When Lyra's face appeared on the screen, her expression was one of stunned disbelief. Behind her, the command center of Tellerus Station was filled with Tellarians staring at their own displays in shock. Commander Chen, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. What we just witnessed. The station is secure, Captain, Chen said simply. The Vorax threat has been eliminated. We're sending shuttles to assess any damage and provide medical assistance if needed. You destroyed them, Lyra said. All of them. In minutes. Chen's expression remained impassive. That was the mission. But how? Those weapons, they're beyond anything we've seen. The Union's finest battleships couldn't have. The galaxy believed we withdrew to lick our wounds. Chen interrupted. That we dismantled our fleet and retreated into isolation out of fear or disillusionment. The truth is different. We withdrew to build, to prepare, to ensure that when we returned, no one would ever again mistake our patience for weakness. 6 hours later, Chen stood in Tellerus Station's main conference room with Captain Lyra and her senior staff. Through the viewports, Earth shuttles could be seen moving between the station and the fleet, delivering supplies and engineering teams to repair minor damage from the battle's shockwaves. The Galactic Union has been attempting to contact you directly, Commander, Lyra said. Admiral Krell himself has sent 3 urgent messages. I'm sure he has, Chen replied dryly. No doubt to explain why abandoning 15,000 civilians to die was the politically expedient choice. Lyra's head frills fluttered anxiously. Commander, what happens now? The entire sector has witnessed Earth's return and the power you wield. The political ramifications alone. Politics is what got us here, Chen cut in. Politics is what led the Union to abandon you. Politics is what allowed the Vorax to become bold enough to think they could prey on the defenseless without consequence. He moved to the viewport, watching as his ships maintained their protective formation around the station. Humanity withdrew from galactic affairs because we learned a harsh lesson at Proxima. Our allies, those who had sworn to stand with us, chose appeasement over honor. They sacrificed our colonies to buy peace with an enemy that only understood strength. And now? Lyra asked. Now the galaxy will learn that Earth remembers its friends and its enemies. Chen turned to face her. Tellerus stood with us during the Hive Wars when others wavered. Today, we return that loyalty. Tomorrow, we will establish a permanent Earth presence in this sector, not as part of the Union, but as an independent force. Lieutenant Zav looked alarmed. You mean to challenge the Galactic Union's authority? We mean to establish a new reality, Chen corrected. One where the strong protect the vulnerable, not exploit them. Where treaties are honored, not discarded when inconvenient. Where species like the Vorax learn that aggression has consequences. Lyra studied him carefully. The Union won't accept this easily. They've controlled interstellar politics for centuries. They've ruled through consensus and compromise, Chen acknowledged. Sometimes that's necessary, but they've forgotten that peace isn't maintained by committees and resolutions. It's maintained by the credible promise of unacceptable consequences for those who would disrupt it. He gestured toward the Earth fleet visible through the viewport. Today was that credible promise. The weapons we used against the Vorax represent only a fraction of what humanity has developed during our isolation. We could have destroyed them from halfway across the sector, without ever revealing ourselves. Then why didn't you? Asked Talon, the security chief. Because this wasn't just about saving Tellerus, Chen said. It was about sending a message. To the Vorax, to the Union, to every power that thought they could act without consequence while Earth slept. He turned back to Lyra. Captain, Earth formally offers Tellerus Station and its people protection under the Terran Accord. We will station a permanent defense force here and establish direct diplomatic ties, independent of Union oversight. Lyra blinked in surprise. The Union won't allow. The Union abandoned you, Chen reminded her gently. They were willing to sacrifice 15,000 lives because standing against the Vorax was politically inconvenient. We're offering an alternative. The Tellurian captain was silent for a long moment, considering the implications. Finally, she nodded. I will present your offer to our council, Commander. But speaking personally, I believe they will accept. Good. Chen nodded. In the meantime, my fleet will remain on station. As the meeting concluded, and the Tellurians filed out, Lieutenant Rivera approached Chen privately. Sir, we've received a priority message from Admiral Yamamoto. The Galactic Union Security Council has called an emergency session. They're demanding an explanation for our actions. Chen smiled thinly. I imagine they are. Tell the Admiral I recommend sending Diplomat Zhao to address the Council. Rivera looked surprised. Zhao? She's not known for her diplomatic touch, sir. Exactly, Chen said. The time for gentle diplomacy is past. The galaxy needs to understand the new reality. Earth has returned, not as a supplicant seeking readmission to their political games, but as a force that will no longer tolerate the strong preying on the weak. He looked out at his fleet, at the stars beyond, at the countless worlds that would soon learn that humanity had spent its long isolation becoming something far more dangerous than they had ever been before. The Union abandoned those who needed protection. Chen said quietly. We did not. That distinction will define everything that follows. Across the sector, news of the battle spread like wildfire. Earth, the forgotten power, the species that had withdrawn from galactic affairs, had returned with weapons that defied comprehension and a willingness to use them. The Vorax Empire began fortifying their borders, suddenly afraid. The Union's diplomats worked frantically to understand the implications. Smaller species and colonies, long oppressed by stronger powers, began to hope. And on distant Earth, in command centers buried beneath mountains and hidden in the shadows of dead moons, humanity's leaders watched as 70 years of preparation revealed its purpose. They had withdrawn not in defeat but in determination, not to hide, but to transform, not to forget, but to ensure they would never again watch their people die while allies stood idle. They had become the force they wished had existed during their darkest hour, and the galaxy would never be the same again.